Hi, I'm Michelle Sakurka. The New Jersey Business and Industry Association is committed to educating the public about the important issues impacting New Jersey's businesses and economy. That's why we're proud to support the important programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation.
This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology, PSE&G, committed to improving New Jersey's economy and strengthening its communities. New Jersey Sharing Network, dedicated to saving lives through organ and tissue donation. The New Jersey Office of the Insurance Fraud Prosecutor. Insurance fraud costs New Jersey families $1,300 a year. Johnson & Johnson, Verizon, and by the law firm of Gibbons PC. Promotional support provided by the New Jersey Business and Industry Association and by Meadowlands Regional Chamber, building essential connections that drive business growth.
This is One-on-One. I'm an equal American just like you are.
The jobs of tomorrow are not the jobs of yesterday.
Look at this. You got this?
Here it is, man. Look at that.
Life without dance is boring.
When you first heard that they were doing Charlie Rose and Gayle King, didn't you go, what?
Do you enjoy talking politics?
No.
People call me because they feel nobody's paying attention.
Our culture, I don't think, has ever been tested the way it's being tested right now.
Such a good question. High five.
That was from Dear Evan Hansen. And by the way, Michael Greif is in the house. He's the director of Dear Evan Hansen, playing at?
The Music Box Theater.
By the way, you were also directing Warpaint, playing at?
The Nederlander Theater.
Busy much?
It's been a really happy year, yes.
Well, good for you. Congratulations. Could you let everyone know what Dear Evan Hansen is all about?
Dear Evan Hansen is a musical about a lonely, isolated high school senior. And he finds himself in a very remarkable and could be a very remarkable situation in which he has the opportunity to really help a grieving family. And because of this, he transforms himself in a lot of ways and becomes a different person. What's really interesting about the musical is that as he's becoming this different person, you're also very concerned about whether or not he's going to be found out, because this relationship that he has with this grieving family is predicated on a lie.
Your career has been so impressive. Rent, you were the first director,
Yes,
right? Did you always know that this was the career you wanted?
Not exactly, but you know, I was a sort of lonely teenager myself, and I gravitated toward the theater and that kind of storytelling and that kind of make-believe and that kind of opportunity to transform myself a bit. By the time I was a senior in high school, I was directing these original musicals in the New York area called Sing.
Where'd you grow up?
They were Brooklyn, Brighton Beach. And then I went to college and I studied a little acting, which I was terrible at, and directing, which I was better at. The same way I can judge other actors, I can judge me, and believe me, I was terrible.
So you just knew?
I knew, yeah. But I loved directing, and I felt good at that.
What do you love about it?
So I continued to do that. It's the storytelling. It's, you know, I get to be a fantastic link between the writers and an audience, and I get to have a remarkable experience with actors. And when we're all working toward the same goal, it's incredibly gratifying.
Warpaint, who's in it?
Christine Ebersole and Patti LuPone.
Patti LuPone, has she done much?
She's doing nice. She's having a good season, too.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'd say so.
Yes.
Right? Explain the directing of both. How does it work?
Well, musicals are in development for a number of years. It's been like a 3 or 4 year journey with each project. And I've certainly been able, and with the help of wonderful producers, David Stone in Warpaint and Stacey Mindich in Dear Evan Hansen, I've had the opportunity to coordinate my schedules in such a way that I've been really free to do both at different times. And We did Dear Evan Hansen in Washington, D.C. at the Arena a couple of years ago. We did War Paint at the Goodman last summer. And multiple productions of these musicals are enormously helpful to their development.
From your perspective, describe Broadway today and how healthy it is and vibrant.
It seems remarkably healthy and vibrant. Ticket sales are certainly good, but what's most thrilling is that, musicals like Hamilton, like Rent Once Upon a Time, and I hope Dear Evan Hansen at the moment are really, really, really capturing the imaginations of a lot of young people who are really excited about seeing a show live and recognize that seeing a show live is different and wonderful, different than seeing a film or staying at home and watching your screens. It's an experience that's unmatched, being in a room with other humans.
The other thing that's interesting is I don't think people have any idea what it takes to bring a play, a musical, to Broadway. And everyone's different.
Every path is different.
Dear Evan Hansen, how challenging?
Well, the good news is it's a fantastic, fantastic story, and wherever we have presented it, first at the Arena in D.C. and then at Second Stage in New York last spring, the responses have been extraordinary, and I think people always knew there was something very, very remarkable there, and in some ways it's easy, but of course it takes a lot of work to create a remarkable thing, and we have amazing, amazing writers. Stephen Levinson, our book writer, Justin Paul and Benj Pasek, our composers. A great producer, as I said, along the way, Molly Smith at the Arena and Carol Rothman at Second Stage were incredibly helpful. So in some ways, you get there. We also have a remarkable, remarkable cast led by Ben Platt, as you said, as we were watching some of the B-roll. Who plays Evan Hansen.
He's good.
He's incredible. And everyone else he's on stage with is incredible, too. I really, really, really love that company. A lot of the challenge of bringing War Paint to Broadway was Patty and Christine's schedules and availability. That was a particular challenge for that project. From the very beginning, Patty was attached as Helena Rubinstein. Christine joined us a little later in the development process to play Elizabeth Arden, and because they both have families and extraordinary careers. There was a lot of planning in terms of how to get those great, great talents on the same stage at the same time.
Last question. The role of the theme of digital communication, social media, if you will, in Evan Hansen.
Yes.
Talk about that.
Sure. Again, I'm really, really fortunate to be working with three extraordinary and young writers, and from the beginning, their conception of this story, from the very, very, very earliest conversations I ever had with them, and probably 2 years earlier when those three writers started talking to each other, there was always going to be a backdrop to the story that involved this virtual community and social media and how it changes people's lives in a particular way today, which has never happened before. And probably it will be different in another 5 or 10 or 15 years.
That's right.
But they really wanted to capture this moment, and the story always had a component of how Evan interacting with social media, again, by accident, would affect the story.
Powerful stuff.
I think it's a great, great, great story.
So, Dear Evan Hansen playing again at the Music Box Theater on West 45th Street and War Paint at the Nederlander on 41st Street. I want to thank you so much for joining us, Michael.
Pleasure
we appreciate
to talk
it.
to you.
Stay right there.
Thank
We'll be right back on One from the Tisch WNET studio here in the heart of Lincoln Center, where an awful lot of terrific things are going on. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
To watch more One-on-One with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
We are pleased to be speaking to Dr. Michael Giuliano, Assistant Dean of Faculty, Resident and Student Development, Seton Hall-Hackensack Meridian School of Medicine. Doctor, we're here in one of the laboratories that in July of 2018 will be fully functioning with students learning, growing, and becoming the future physicians, right?
Coming real quick, real quick.
Talk to us about what you're so excited about in terms of what's going to be happening here and the kinds of physicians that will come out of here.
This is a unique opportunity. I'm sure everyone's talked about the fact that you don't get to start a new medical school from scratch very often. And the ability to bring people together, the students and faculty and residents together to do that is a very unique opportunity. And it gives us an opportunity to really break some of the old paradigms that have been in place for a long time, not have to break those walls down, but actually build from scratch, clean piece of paper, and actually begin right from the beginning in terms of what we think is the best way to educate and build the system.
Before we got in there, you gave me a very simple analogy, and I want you to play this out a little bit. Now, you can teach, you can give information, you can tell someone, here's how to get that fish. You can give a man or a woman a fish, right? They eat 4 a day. You can teach, obviously, someone how to fish, and there's a lifetime, potentially, of good things. How does that relate to a medical school?
So I think for the most part, most medical education has been all about just giving fishes, the pieces of knowledge that people need to use. And it's still important. You need to do that, obviously. But I think the focus for this school is really going to be about teaching people to fish, the process issues related to how do I solve clinical problems? How do I apply what I've learned in new situations? I mean, most of medical information changes so dramatically is that half of what we're teaching the students is wrong. And we just don't know which half is wrong. And we need to teach them to constantly be learning and editing what they learn. And that's an absolute critical skill now.
Doctor, you were saying how things change so quickly, right? So I'm envisioning students come in to the School of Medicine in July of 2018. They start to treat patients 3 years later, let's say, and 3-4 years later, right? Things have changed in that period of time, will continue to change after that. How do those physicians stay current with the information, the technology changes? How do they do that as lifelong learners?
Well, that's the key, is the idea of being a lifelong learner. How do I keep myself editing and updating what I need to know? And actually, one of the core skills will be able to actually use search abilities, looking at information, how things are changing, obviously updating yourself in terms of the literature. But it's become such a gargantuan task that you really need to know the sites to go to, places that are pre-digesting lots of information so that you're not behind the 8 ball, not having to constantly be reading. No one can do it individually, but teaching people where to go, what the most important reliable sites are, how to do a proper search, what the resources, fixed resources they need. Those are all going to be critical skills, probably the most critical skill that they're going to have in terms of editing and updating their knowledge base.
Doctor, there's a Catholic mission, a Catholic component for this, in this initiative, that, particularly with the Seton Hall piece, that matters a great deal to you. Talk about that.
Well, fundamentally, why do we do this? I mean, we do this because we love each other. I mean, and that source of that is fundamentally what the Catholic Church and most faiths are really all about, is the idea of love, of the idea of doing the best for the other person, willing the good of the other person. And that, at its heart and soul, is really what this is all about. It's what most physicians really, if they really, had a glass of wine and relaxed a little bit and you asked them, why do you do this? I mean, I think that's what comes out. So that Catholic heart, the heart of the Catholic Church, is really all about making God's love be real in the world. And this medical school's mission, fundamental mission, is indeed to love our patients in a godly way.
When you go back and think about your medical school experience, be very different from the experience that the students will have here, fair to say?
Oh, very different. Actually, interestingly enough, I just gave a workshop yesterday, and in the room was someone I went to medical school with, and we were talking about how completely different. That was
one example.
So the majority of medical school 40 years ago was passive. You sat in a classroom 80% of the time, did a few labs here and there, and ultimately got to maybe touch a patient in a few years. In our curriculum, you're going to be spending very little time in a large classical classroom, almost none. You're going to be spending most of your time in small groups, working together to solve problems, and you're going to be interacting with patients almost from the very beginning.
And the impact, the benefits for patients will be?
Well, I think having that interface with an empathetic, compassionate physician who spends time to listen, to understand you emotionally, spiritually, to understand where you live, to walk a mile in your shoes, it's an immense difference. And I think that will be a central part of what we're teaching. I mean, we're using technology to make some other things easier, but the reality is that the heart and soul of medicine is still that personal relationship with a patient. that intimate development of a relationship. It's what drives the whole process. It gets good information, helps to solve the clinical problems when you understand and hear what people really need to know about, and families, and indeed out into the communities in terms of understanding where people's limitations are and what help they really need. I think it could be transformative, and I think you obviously think about it in a local way, individual patients, but when you scale that to a whole medical school that interfaces with a large medical system, and you begin to apply that in every place, I think it has the potential to be truly transformative.
Last question. I've talked to the dean about this. Dean Stanton and I have talked to Jeff Boskamp, Dr. Boskamp, about this issue of empathy and emotional intelligence. And I'm curious about this with you, because I've read about your background, I've gotten a chance to talk to you, and I know you by reputation. The degree of empathy, compassion, the Catholic component that you talk about, which is, you don't have to be Catholic just to care, just whatever that piece is for someone. When did you know that you wanted to go into this line of work, and it was largely because of a desire to be helpful to other people?
Oh, as far back as I can remember. There's something probably deep down. It came from my mother and my father, from my family, from my faith. It's been fundamental to everything I've done my whole life. The question always is, though, can you teach that? And I think that there's some aspects, obviously, in the admissions process that can help us to try to discern how strongly that is. But the reality is that I think there's many ways to demonstrate and make it clear that you have compassion. Your skill set, for example, in terms of your ability to draw people out, is a skill set. You have an idea of what those are. Eye contact, sitting with people, being eye to eye, listening intently. Those kinds of things can be taught. And obviously, walking a mile with someone to understand them is something you can indeed model and indeed demonstrate. And of course, make certain that that's modeled not just by faculty, but it's modeled by the residents. My title includes residents because they're so critical to make certain that they don't give an attitude that's harder and not empathetic and not compassionate. This has to be across the entire spectrum, from the faculty to the direct clinicians, to the residents, and to the students themselves. It's a continuum.
Thank you, Doctor.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
To see more one-on-one with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at steveadubato.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato PhD, and follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
One-on-One is pleased to welcome One-on-Two. Paul Muratore is the founder and executive director of a great organization celebrating its first anniversary as we do this program called Connections, and also Brad Mensah is a Connections mentee. How you guys doing?
Really good. Thanks for having us today.
Now, how would you describe what this organization is?
Connections is an organization that finds people of character, 25 years and older, and we find people like Brad, who are also people of budding character, and we put them together. So we look for inner city metro kids, and we pair them with mentors to help them transition to the next stage of their life.
You started this.
I did.
Why?
So I spent 30 years doing some volunteer work with fun people like Brad, and spent a fair amount of that time in the professional world. And I left and wanted to do something philanthropic. And so I saw what was working really well in the foster care system and what some of the holes were. And so I went to Children's Village in Dobbs Ferry and asked them to host me, and said, could we bring kind of the pieces together as we look at kids trying to exit the foster care system and put them on the strongest footing possible? Because sometimes those transitions can be a little bit scary, and sometimes you have to do them by yourself.
You got a mentor.
Alongside them.
Yeah, her name is Allie.
Allie's hanging around here somewhere, right?
She is.
Allie's watching the show right now. She's proud of you.
She's a wonderful mentor.
Because?
Because I'm succeeding in life. I'm doing what I have to, and she's the best. She gives me good advice, all that.
A couple pieces of advice she's given you that you know have made and will continue to make a difference for you.
Do not allow myself to fail.
Don't allow it?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Because people tend to fall off, and when they fall off from, I guess, like whatever they're doing, they don't bounce back. So, like, I told myself, like, if I do fall off, bounce back. And if I don't bounce back, she's always there to, pick me up or tell me, Brad, you're falling off. And I always bounce back. make sure I bounce
How do you
back.
communicate with her? How do you interact with her?
Email, text, phone call.
She's right there.
Yep.
What's that like
Always.
for you? To know she's there.
It's helpful. It's helpful. And I'm so grateful.
Where do you find these mentors?
So through programs like this, we look for you guys to spread the word for us, so thank you. We've been in the press locally, and so in the beginning, I used my warm network. So I went to my friends and said, could you support us either financially or being a mentor? We now partner with NYU and some other local organizations. Where Allie came from was a good friend of mine owns a place called Elegant Real Estate. He offered an opportunity for me to come into his office and speak to his employees, and we did. And so we picked up 3 or 4 mentors through that experience. And so we're constantly out there kind of looking for more people. We have now partnered with Volunteer New York, which is an organization based in Westchester. And after today's time with you, I'm going to go see Mentor New York. And they are organizations where volunteers from the New York metro area come, say, I want to volunteer or I want to do something else. And they direct them to an organization that matches what their desires are.
So people watching right now, someone says, you know what? I want to make a difference. What does it take?
So most of the mentors who are good come to us and they're sort of nervous in the beginning because they're like, can I do this? And for somebody like Allie, she's a 20-year-old woman, real estate professional in New York City, loves sports and a lot of other activities. She brought herself to the party.
Yeah.
And you can see that. You didn't talk about all the fun things you do. He talked about the fact that she's there.
By the way, Allie's right outside. Jen Eichlin, our executive producer, is going to go crazy that I'm doing this. Could you ask Allie to just come in? She'll come in behind you. Can we do that? I'm going to be vetoed by the bosses around here, but just ask Allie to come in. Trust me on this. I know there's a mic situation.
But it's wonderful when someone just brings himself and they say, I'm here. Who are you? And so Allie didn't tell Brad what to do or what to be or how to do it. She just told him that he could and that he had the right to ask those questions of himself. What do I want to do and what do I want to pursue?
Allie, come on in for a second. Stand behind them. Good. I know we've got the mic situation. You can speak into that mic right there. Allie, let me ask you.
Yeah.
When you met this young man, what did you see?
Sparkle.
Can we hear it, by the way, guys? Go ahead.
Talk into it. We met out at CV at Children's Village, and the minute we connected, we started talking about food, about sports. He took me immediately out to meet everybody on campus and started introducing me. This is Allie, my mentor, and I just was...
Everybody. I had to make sure
Everybody fell in love with her? By the way, I'm told you don't have to go do that. You can speak normally. I've been doing this for 25 years. I haven't figured it out yet. Why did you do it?
Paul came into our office and spoke to us, and it just resonated with me. I didn't know Brad. I didn't know who I was going to be connected with. But just the fact that little interactions could make a huge difference for someone is, how could I not do that to me? Wasn't a second thought. Went out to Children's Village, toured the campus, and met another colleague or
Another mentor?
student who showed us around the campus, and I just said, I'll sign up, whatever you need me to do.
Do you have any idea where your life might be if Allie were not in it, if you were not part of Connections?
I would probably not be doing as good in school, and I would probably just be, done fell off completely.
Not on track?
Yeah, like all the way off track.
What do you see in him?
I see him as one of our success stories because Brad is the kind of kid...
That's why you brought him in.
Yeah. He's one of those kids who had some of those stepping stones in place. And when you're in care and you don't have a supportive network... Yes. Yeah. When you make one of those missteps, you can actually do something that has a tremendous negative impact on the rest of your life. And so in those times where Brad was honest and said, I made a misstep here, when Allie was there just to sort of put him back in the place where he felt confident to then go back on the right step, those are the times that get you out of care and living an independent life. Yeah. But I see him potentially pursuing an education. We're having that debate right now, whether education's worthwhile, right, and what that would take. He's talking about work. He's finishing high school. He's graduating this year.
You're graduating. Congratulations.
Thank you.
With the full Regents diploma, which is really amazing.
That's beautiful.
And hopefully he's in supportive housing in Manhattan now. Yeah. But I see him in his apartment in a few years having a dinner party for us to come to your place.
And he potentially could be a mentor to someone else down the road.
85% of mentees become mentors, and they are the most meaningful and impactful people because they've been there.
And the organization is called Connections. By the way, real quick, the number one leadership lesson you have learned in your life is?
Stay humble and realize that leaders lead. And the only way that you evaluate a leader is how many people are following them, not how far ahead of the parade they are.
Number one leadership lesson you learned?
Be there.
Just be there.
Be supportive. I mean, that's how you gain insight, I think.
And make a difference. In your ripe old age of? How old are you?
19.
Number one lesson you've learned about leadership in life is?
Keep striving. Always strive for better. Don't let yourself, like, how can I say this? Don't accept the position you're in. Try to shoot for better.
Well, the entire public television community is rooting for you.
Thank you.
And we'll keep track. And you have an open invitation here at the Tisch WNET studio here in Lincoln Center, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Great
today.
organization. By the way, congratulations on your first anniversary.
Thank you. We're very excited.
One on One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. This special edition of One on One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by NJIT, PSE&G, New Jersey Sharing Network, the New Jersey Office of the Insurance Fraud Prosecutor, Johnson & Johnson, Verizon, and by the law firm of Gibbons PC. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.
Hi, I'm Peter Rooney. In 2006, I lost my father to renal disease. He was on the waiting list for a new kidney, but did not receive one in time. Unfortunately, so many like my father have lost their lives while waiting for a life-saving organ. At New Jersey Sharing Network, we're committed to saving and enhancing people's lives through organ and tissue donation and by informing people about this important decision. Because you can make a difference and save a life.